Welcome to The Breakthrough with the Browns, a podcast all around real life, real stories, and real growth. I am Lady Tony Brown with Victory Station Ministries, and I am super excited today to have a guest speaker with us, my BFF since we were 4 years old, Kimbra Thompson. Welcome, girl.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you. And guys, I will tell you this episode is going to be nice and juicy for the ladies. Our topic today is seasons of a woman's life. And as you guys know, we as women go through a lot as little girls, as we grow up in college, just as we are as adults. And we want to talk about it. We want to talk about how we've navigated through the seasons of our life, whether being single, whether being married, divorced, kids, self-care, all those great things. So I'm super excited to have Kimbra with us today, and I affectionately call her KT, with us to really talk about the seasons of our lives. So KT, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the people before we jump into the episode.
Well, I am Tony's BFF.
Yes.
I'm a twinless twin. I am a mother, two amazing, creative young adults who are my world, and I am a newly divorced single woman.
She is.
I'm also a small business consultant and hands in many different things, but that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. There's so much more to you, girl, but I know you don't want to give the people everything today.
Not too much.
So let's jump into it. So let's talk about our formative years and things that have really shaped us to be who we are today. So if you could think about a time when we were young, really early, that influenced your path today. Were there any type of things that really stuck out to you?
Well, I'll say that at 7 years old, I knew I wanted to be a hairstylist.
Oh, wow.
I knew that. I hated the way my mom combed my hair going to school, long pigtails, wide hair barrettes. I hated it. So I knew I wanted to be a hairstylist. But then at 9 years old, in church, we had a Bible session called Dynamics of Goal Setting at 9 years old.
Wow. And
I remember planning out, writing my goals at 9. So my mother's hairstylist, God rest her soul, Miss Barbara Gathan, lived down the street from us. She was a hairstylist, but also a school teacher. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, watching what she did, I was like, I could do that. And so my goal was to go to college, become a history teacher, and still do hair.
Wow.
So that I could have the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. I went to college. I did too much hair while I was in college. Ended up becoming a beauty professional for 33 plus years. So that really did shape, watching people in our community and church shaped what was the foundation of my professional career.
Yeah, and let me just say this. KT has been a hairstylist for as long as I remember. She would do my hair in the corner in English class in 7th grade. And she is a bomb hairstylist too. I know you don't do as much as you like, but you are amazing. So I didn't really realize that Miss Barbara Ann Gathan was your influence.
She was, and it's crazy because we don't realize how community really has an impact on us, and we never know who is watching us.
Right.
And so those pillars in our community, those people growing up that we watch, they have impact and influence.
And you know, we always say it takes a village to do anything, raise children, whatever. And quite honestly, I feel like now in these days and times, people are afraid to really embrace our children and teach them the things that they need to know for fear that maybe the family will lash out. But I think it's so important that when we were young, we had that.
We had to have it. And it, not just our family, of course, again, we're talking community.
Yes.
Community shaped us. And I like to say, you know, we're from the cellar, Monticello. Yes. Shout out Monticello, Arkansas.
Monticello.
The CR.
Yes.
because there was such a strong community of women and educators, and my mom was very, very instrumental in my spiritual growth and being grounded in Christ, for one, and then just having those extensions outside of home. And like you said, today we need to get back to that. And I think, having this platform with social media and so many other things, there is a way to reach, and that our voices can be heard to help support that. Absolutely.
And speaking of those tentacles that helped us grow, I too, besides my parents, of course, I too had 4 people that come to mind for me that really helped me be who I am today. Sister Marie Carroll, Dorothy Nicholson, God rest her soul, Charlene Cabness, rest her soul, and then Ira Watkins. They were all, number one, they were teachers, and they were teachers when we were really young, like 4th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and they really pushed us to be the best people that we can be. They did not accept mediocrity from us. And we were both in the pageantry world as well, and they too influenced us, showed us, it was almost like we were in charm school.
Exactly.
They showed us everything we needed to be as a woman, everything we need to be as a person, and what they gave us was invaluable. And I'm just thankful that I had that tribe around me.
That community.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you for sharing that. Barbara Ann Gaither. Wow.
I know.
Yeah, she's a wonderful woman, was a wonderful woman. All right, so let's move on to relationships and friendships.
Okay.
We're maybe like in our 20s right now, right? And so we're establishing relationships, friendships. We want to think about it throughout our entire life. So how have relationships or friendships evolved over the seasons of your life? Like, we're in our 50s now. What have you learned from them? What tips or tricks can you give to the younger generation about relationships and friendships?
Just having a young adult daughter who's 26 right now, and navigating friendships and relationships. Times were different for us. And growing up in small town, for one, all of us being at, going from kindergarten through high school together, that helped us to bond and build really strong friendships that have lasted 49 years, And so in my 20s, I got married early. So the friendships that I established in childhood, in school, are the ones that I would say have carried me through up to this point. However, being a young stylist, when I was in cosmetology school, Miss Foot was her name. She was a beast of an instructor. She challenged me, she pushed me, and she gave me a lot of things to stand on as a professional. One thing particularly she said was, you be friendly to all your clients, but don't befriend them all. That has stuck with me. That is something that, as a cosmetology instructor, I've shared with many students, because, the boundary of business and friendship, it does cross because it's an intimate situation.
Right.
But that said, some of my clients have become my friends, and they have become an integral part of my life to a point. But at the same time, it's those friendships that I formed as a child that I have leaned on and have come back to, that have just stood the test of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. And as I think about friendships over the years, for me, what I've learned now that I'm seasoned is that you don't need a bunch of friends. And honestly, we have to be careful about who we allow in our space, because sometimes they're not for us. They want us to fail. So I've learned to keep my circle really tight. And quite honestly, that circle, to your point, are people that I've known for years. Now, I'm not saying that some of my new friends have my back, and they absolutely do, but I have to be very intentional about who I will allow in my space and who I tell my stories to, who I tell my dreams to, all of that stuff, because I want people in my corner that has my back no matter what, and don't go and spread your, all of your business to everyone else. So that was one of my key learnings.
And I would say that, every friend, you kind of compartmentalize them.
Yeah.
And just because I may be the connector to, it doesn't mean that I will fit with in every situation, or every friend is going to be privy to everything.
Correct.
And so it's that thing where we just have to be, as we mature, we age, and we understand what those friendships look like and how they serve us and how we serve them.
Absolutely. Because I've had some bumps in the road along the way. I made some bad decisions as it relates to friends, bad decisions on what I've told people.
Absolutely.
And I have bruises with that, but I've learned. That's the thing. We go through stuff, we fall down, but we learn from it and come out better on the other side.
Speaking of friends,
yes,
I have to shout out my twin brother.
Oh, for sure.
God rest his soul.
Yes, JT.
Aside from you, he's been my BFF.
I know.
And because of having him, friendships and life was just different for me altogether, because I don't know existing without him until he passed on May 3rd, 2020. And what a day that was. But having the privilege to be born with a man's man who was everything.
Yes.
He was an absolute best friend. And I'll stop there. I'm sorry.
Yes, I know. JT is one of a kind. He was just the most kind, giving, caring, funny, crazy,
smart,
everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he could sit in a room with Jay-Z, but also sit at the table with Obama. So he was just one of those jewels that, we miss him.
Yeah.
We really do. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. It's okay. Let's move on to motherhood. So, I have my 3 biological, then I also have 3 bonus children. You have your 2 amazing kids. So, do you have any advice for young moms today navigating motherhood in these days and times? And what lessons would you give them on what you've learned from raising your children?
Well, of course, times are different.
Yes, they are.
I just be a parent, mother, but also understand the times that they're living in are so different than we were brought up in.
Right.
It's important to understand that the parenting dynamic changes. It evolves.
Yes.
From being that parent to then once they become young adults, we're more of a guide and a voice of reason, and allowing them to, I always say children show us who they are.
Yeah, they do.
They were not put here for us. They were put here for God's purpose. And when they show us who they are, it's up to us to believe them and to nurture what they show us, what their interests are.
Yeah.
Who they are. And, this is a whole other topic for another day, but even their sexuality and those things. It's up to us to love who God gave us. Yeah. And sometimes I think parents, we make it harder for our kids than it's necessary.
I agree.
And, at 26 and 29, my children, people will probably look at us and think, my God, she has no control. Those kids are just wayward. But it's a situation where in today, we have to be a voice of reason. We have to be a safe place. We have to be the place that they want to come to. I had a conversation with one lady, and she didn't want to hear what her daughter has to say about her friend. She was like, it's just too much. I don't want to hear it. And I'm thinking, I welcome that.
Absolutely.
Even when my daughter's telling me, she's in LA and she's telling me, she didn't get in till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and telling me about the time they had.
Yeah.
Well, were you safe? Who were you with?
Right.
We want to have those conversations.
Exactly.
So it's important as mothers to always just be that rock for them. Right. Be that safe space and that haven for them that they know without fail, I can always go to my mom.
Absolutely.
As a friend and a parent.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And the other thing that I would say about that is we also have to remember that every child is different. And they have to be raised different. They have to be talked to different. They have to be loved differently. Every one of my kids are absolutely different. And one of the things that I learned is I have to be intentional about having a focused conversation with each one of them in the space that they're in.
Yes.
I used to be bad about just blanketed loving them. They need love differently.
Absolutely.
And I've learned, my oldest daughter, who's 29, we used to butt heads a lot because when she would come to me with issues, the first thing I would say is just calm down. It's not that bad. I wouldn't allow her to release the tension that she was having, to talk to me about how she was feeling. I was just going into fix it mode and telling her to calm down. Now I've learned, and we've learned this together, I let her vent. I don't say what I typically say. And if she's still kind of over the top with it, I say, you know what, let's just hang up. Come back in about an hour once we both calm down and talk through it.
Yes.
It took me a minute to figure that out.
It's funny you say that because Cortland, I'm sorry. She says the same thing. She'll call me and she's like, I just need a moment. I need to cry. I'm silent and I just let her cry.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, on the other hand, we can just go there.
Yeah.
For the most part. But to your point, they're different kids.
They are.
I read somewhere, I'm reading like 3 books right now, and I can't remember which book I saw this in. But in the book, it talks about how we always say that two children can come from the same household and they'll be totally different.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing is, the parent that raised the first child is not the same parent that raised the second child.
Correct.
Because who I was when Josh was born
is different.
It's different than who I was. Life circumstances,
Absolutely.
Marital relations were different.
Job status, all of that.
Everything was different. So who you are with each child is something different.
Is.
So what would make us think we can love them all the same way?
Right. It's funny that you say that because, my kids are kind of spread out. So I have the 15-year-old, then I have the 25 and the 29. Yep. So Taylor always says to me that the youngest has the best life. Well, it's sort of true, and I'm sorry, but I'm in a place in my life where I'm solid in my job. Right. I can travel. Right. I was grinding with the younger ones. And so we couldn't do all those things. And, we have to remember that sometimes the older ones may feel some kind of way because, my little one and I, we go on vacations, we doing spring breaks. She's like, you never took us in. I was like, Mama didn't have the money.
Baby, you were in a different season of Mama's life.
Exactly. So I think, the biggest thing I could offer as advice to people is just remember that every child is different. Have patience with them, love them through whatever they're going through, and just let them know that Mama's always going to be there.
Always here. Because having the support and the acceptance of Mom is invaluable to their process.
Absolutely. All right. I have one more section or topic I want to talk to you about. And this one is the one that I struggle with the most. And it's around self-care and self-love. And my question to you is that essential in your life, the self-care and the self-love? And if it is, how did you begin doing that? Have you always done that? Or is this something new for you? And what advice do you give other women about self-care and self-love?
So, it's absolutely essential. It's a part of the fabric of my life, of who I am from a little girl. And to that point, my sister, she made a comment about growing up, how she would find all these love notes that I would write to myself. Literally.
Wow.
I love you, Kim. I love KDT. KT, I love you. From a young kid.
Wow.
And I've always, not realizing that those were affirmations and those were things that I was building and shoring myself up for this life's journey. I developed a strong sense of self-love at a young age because, for a number of reasons, which is, again, is another topic, but it's so important, I think, for one, that we speak to ourselves kindly. And have grace with ourselves. And, social media there's so many cliches and so much, we talk about it, but do we really do it? And I try to treat myself the way I would treat you, the way I would treat other friends, and want for myself what I want for you.
Yeah.
because I am always with me 100%. So if I don't love me and if I don't care for me, who else will? And so for me, it first starts with how I speak to myself, looking at myself in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, talking to myself, really having that meditative time to think about, choices and decisions I've made, and having grace, giving myself grace for those things. And then on a physical level, I don't call it self-care. It's just maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm going to maintain those womanly things, those, those pedicures, manicures, that facials, that time that we need to just love on ourselves.
Yeah.
And then I love my downtime. I love my favorite place. You know what my favorite place in the world
I already
is?
know it's mine too.
My bed.
Yes.
And I think, having our home space be a space that is warm and inviting. I love scent. I love fragrance. In high school, people could tell, well, Kim just came through the hall because you could tell
I remember.
my fragrance.
Yes.
It is just something that I love. I want my home to be warm. I never want to be at a hotel that feels better than my home space.
Yes.
I don't care. I've been to many places. I don't care where I've been. I always look forward to coming home because that's my place of peace and rest. And when people come into my home and they come into my space, they talk about how good it smells.
Yep.
They talk about how warm and engaging it
Yep.
is. So wrapped in that space, being wrapped in that in my own space helps me be ready for whatever life throws at me.
So you've really embraced this since you were young.
Oh, absolutely. And there's it has to be. There's no.
So who instilled in you at that young age to write those love notes, to talk to yourself in the mirror? Like, who did you see someone doing that, or that's
I did not. I honestly don't know where it came from. I just believe that God knew what my life path was going to be, and that I would perhaps help other women with that or through that or to show it. But I don't know. And my sister even, she was like, I thought you were just crazy. Because, it was everywhere. And even in school, and as an adult college student, I doodle a lot.
Yeah.
And as I'm doodling, it is always a love note to myself.
Wow.
It is. And so, I started this little self-love note series on Instagram and haven't done anything else with it. But it's really important that we talk to ourselves that way. And we talk about affirmations and all that kind of thing, but it has to start with self.
It does. And for me, I didn't have that. And honestly, in the last few years, I'm realizing I need that. Because, the devil is absolutely busy and he wants us to look down upon ourselves. Yeah. He wants us to hate ourselves. Yeah. And I have to keep reminding myself that I know who I belong to.
Absolutely.
And I look in that mirror now and say, girl, you okay.
Absolutely.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I love you. If nobody else loves me, I'm going to love me. But there are a lot of women that really struggle with loving themselves just based on maybe things that have gone on in their life. So what advice would you give them that are still struggling and in that space of, just low? How do they come up from that?
It's a deep dig, for sure. And in this world of social media, comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh, it's terrible.
I raised my kids on scripture, and I had a board that I would post scripture on. And one of those scriptures, and they can tell you today, is that we do not compare ourselves among ourselves. I don't, and I had this joke that I didn't play sports, so I don't compete with anybody but me.
Right.
Because when we compare ourselves, that's the biggest hurdle to overcome.
It is.
And we have to really be intentional about knowing that God created me for who I am.
Yes.
He created me the way He wanted me to be.
Yes.
And it's up to me to nurture that and it's just it's a deep dig. And we gotta go through, all the layers of hurt and trauma and, whatever that is to find how to, love ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a minister / speaker. Her name is Nona Jones. She has a book called Killing Comparisons. If you have not gotten that book, get it.
She's amazing.
She is absolutely amazing. Shout out to Nona Jones.
Yeah.
But she really talks about, as you mentioned, we all have a plan and purpose that God has given us.
Yep.
And if we compare ourselves to other people, that will be the demise of what we're trying to do with our life.
Look, and take a note from Beyonce. We're one of one.
Right.
The only one.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
are one of one, and we have to embrace that.
Yeah.
And our flaws and all.
Absolutely.
And love ourselves.
I totally agree. And then on the self-love kick, I know you talked about that a little bit. I'm sorry, self-care. We talked about that. I too, there's several things that I make sure I do. Make sure my hair is done. Make sure my nails are done. You know, I get my massage and facials every now and then. But when you feel good,
Oh, absolutely.
you exude and you look good.
Absolutely.
I know sometimes when my hair isn't done, I'm just feeling a mess one day. I don't even want to come out of the house. I don't even go out of my room because I feel like I'm not my best.
I'll say this. I've learned to navigate those spaces.
Have
though.
you? Talk to me about that.
And I don't know if it's because being a beauty professional
Yeah.
or just, from a young age, just fashion, style, all of that stuff, and the grooming maintenance. If it's a baseball cap kind of day,
Yeah.
rock it.
Well, you do look good in baseball
Well, I'm
caps.
just saying, whatever it is, and that's why I say it's important that we feel good from the inside out, so
Yeah.
that no matter, bad hair days or,
Yeah.
if a lash is time to get lashes done, whatever
Yes.
that is,
Yes.
we're still owning that space.
Yes.
And because I love me.
Yeah.
And it radiates from inside out.
does.
So all those external things we do,
Yeah.
those are just, that's just sprinkling.
It is.
What's on the inside.
Yeah, and the deeper connection you have with God,
Exactly.
the more you'll love yourself. We have to remember we are beautifully and
Yeah,
wonderfully
wonderfully
made.
made.
And we have to keep that in our spirit every day to keep us uplifted.
Absolutely.
All right, KT. So I'm going to end. I want you to give any additional words of advice to the people who are watching today. Anything you want to share?
I would just say to women, we are the heart of, we really make the world go round, I think. Without us, where would the world be?
Right.
And so it's important to me as a woman, as a daughter, sister, friend, mother, future wife, that I take care of me no matter what at all costs. And I always say, choosing you. If we choose us, we're going to do those things that lift us up, that elevate us, that even in our dark times. And I'll say this, when things are going well, that's when we have to really solidify ourselves and we got to really build ourselves up so that those times that come when we are down.
Right.
We have something in the treasure to pull from.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's just important to just find a way, whatever that way is, to love ourselves and to make
Absolutely.
sure that we're putting ourselves first.
I totally agree. We have to pour into us. You can't go to the bank and get money out if you have not
put in.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So we have to give ourselves the space and the grace to pour into.
Yes.
Because if we don't have it, we can't pour into other people. And there's a lot of people that's depending on us as women, just in general. Okay, KT, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, thank you so much for watching The Breakthrough with the Browns. I'm so excited I had my BFF, Kimbra Thompson, on the show today. Seasons of a Woman's Life. I hope that it was helpful to you. I hope you got something out of it. God bless you and have a great rest of your week.